Hello and welcome back to the Game Lore Archives. We mentioned a war that was being waged across all of Tamriel, which is the backdrop for the invasion of Morlagbal and the main questline of the online game. Today we'll discuss this in a little more detail and provide some context to what's going on between the races.
Varan Aquilarius was tricked by Manamako to initiate the Soul Burst. This was a ritual that was supposed to imbue Varan with dragon blood. This would legitimise the Emperor's claim to the throne and mean he would relight the dragon fires. And it also destroyed him, as it was actually a trick to allow Morlagbal to pull Nirn into his realm of oblivion. Varan forgot who he was and became lost. We know he was found at the Moth Priest's Abbey, but Tamriel did not know this for some time. When he went missing, his wife, Slivia? Yeah? Clivia, that's such an awful
I know.
I'm going with Slivia.
Yeah.
Slivia Tharn was named Emperor Regent of Tamriel. Tried to get to the Empire to accept Daedric worship, as the Tharn family were well known for it. She did this in two ways. The first was to legalise the practice, especially to Morlagbal, and she also convinced Manamako to use his necromancer abilities to resurrect the Imperial soldiers to boost their forces. Her father, Abner Tharn, disagreed with this and caused a split in the family, and is why he helps the Vestige. When the Dark Anchors fell to the Imperial city, it was presumed that Sylvia Tharn was dead, and the garrison troops promised themselves to Morlagbal to join his forces. With the Empire crippled, the three alliances fought among themselves to gain control of the Ruby Throne and expand their territory.
The three alliances that are fighting for power are the Ebonheart Pact, the Altmiri Dominion, and the Daggerfall Covenant. First we'll look at the Daggerfall Covenant. The Covenant was originally a treaty between the various kingdoms of High Rock after the defeat of Durkorak the Black Drake. He was the first of what became known as the Longhouse Emperors. Durkorak amassed an army of Reachmen and ravaged Bankarai before laying siege to the other regions of High Rock, until finally arriving at Daggerfall. Emmerich convinced Wayrest to send its dragoons to attack the Reachmen from behind. Daggerfall also marched its armies out as well, and between the defence of Daggerfall's army and the surprise attack of Wayrest's dragoons, Durkorak's armies were defeated and Emmerich killed Durkorak in single combat. Not long after, Emmerich was present when the first Daggerfall Covenant was signed for. The treaty the kingdoms entered was that if any kingdom were to come under attack, they would all rally to help each other and provide a mutual protection throughout High Rock. This was really to protect trade throughout the land, as there was much poverty that could be alleviated with the covenant in place.
Emmerich's rise to power was tinted with sadness. He ascended to the throne of Wayrest, but only when the majority of his family had been taken by the Catonian flu. He married King Farajed of Alekir's daughter, Maya. This strengthened ties between the Bretons and the Redguard. However, it caused tension for some in High Rock. The reason for this was Emmerich was shunned King Rancer's daughter. Rancer was so offended by this that he raised an army with a huge number of mercenaries and marched on Wayrest. It was supposed to be a quick battle, but Emmerich's defence was solid. This allowed the other members of the Daggerfall Covenant to send reinforcements. Bretons from all over High Rock, a Redguard army, and even an army of Norsinium, as the Orcs had also joined the Covenant, all turned up to aid Emmerich, and in all sides Rancer was forced to retreat to Ravenspire, and here Rancer was killed in battle. With such unprecedented cooperation between three races of the Covenant, Emmerich created and updated the Covenant and made himself High King Emmerich. This created the Daggerfall Covenant we have in the Elder Scrolls Online.
The next we'll discuss is the Ebonheart Pact. This was created from an alliance between the Nords, Argonians and the Dwemer. They were brought together to fight the threat of the Akaviri who invaded from the east. These allies deeply mistrust each other. The Dark Elves kept the Argonians as slaves, and the Nords are boisterous, but it's a powerful mix. They only work together in a bid to keep their homelands and defeat the Empire. The leader of the pact is Joran the Skald King. He pursued the Akaviri after they killed Skyrim's royal family and sacked Windhelm. As Joran chased the Akaviri south, he asked the Greybeards for help. They told him he was now the High King of Skyrim, and they also summoned Wulfharth, who inspired the Nordic army to redouble their efforts and face the Akaviri invaders once more.
Interestingly, the Akaviri saw the Nords as a genuine threat and actually decided to avoid conflict with them, so they travelled south to invade Morrowind. The Akaviri had hoped that when they moved past the Nords' borders, the Nords would stop chasing them and they would get a foothold in Morrowind instead. Joran's armies chased them through the Velothi Mountains and across the border into the waiting arms of the Dunmer army, led by Almalexia herself. The Akaviri engaged the Dunmer forces, and the Nords stampeded into the back of the Akaviri army. In spite of this, the Akaviri were huge in number, and their martial prowess was huge, so even the combined forces of the Dunmer and the Nords could not push them back. Then suddenly, the Argonians appeared. Their leader was a female Argonian called Hetia Meen, who was shown a vision by the histories of the invasion, and they were there just at the right time. With the addition of the Argonians, knowing exactly where to be at the right time and having exactly the right forces for the job, the Akaviri were pushed towards the ocean. The Akaviri either drowned in the sea or fell to the enemy blades. This formed the basis of the Ebonheart Pact, and incidentally, they had the largest landmass of the three alliances.
By far the most straightforward and stable is the Outmiri Dominion, the leader of which is Queen Irene, who you should all totally pick because she's voiced by Kate Beckinsale. So Queen Irene is the youngest queen to rule the Ultima at only 28 years old. She disappeared when she was 8 and returned 17 years later.
Just chilling.
Well, yeah. Well, what actually happened is she trained under the Direni by the Adamantian Tower in the arts of war, tactics and swordplay. During her travels, she also suffered under the Tharn family, and that's where her hatred of men actually began. The Dominion was started by the Ultima, who feared the young races would not know what to do with Tamriel. When the Ultima found out about Molagbar's invasion, they called on their old allies the Bosmer and the Khajiit, which had happened a few times in the past, and will happen again a few times in the future. The Dominion was created to restore elven rule to Tamriel, as they believe that the other races are too young to rule. They're the most stable of the alliances, and they will often come together when it's needed.
This is an overview of the alliances and their motives that pushed them towards the war. It is unclear what happened to the alliances after the war. They stopped sometime shortly after Talos ascended to the Ruby Throne and reunified Tamriel. And there's no clear winner, and there's probably there wasn't one, as you just said. And that's kind of everything on the Three Banners War. So make sure you tune in for the next episode. Subscribe, click on the little bell so you get told. And also, please make sure you check out the Patreon for loads of cool stuff on there, so we can continue to make some great videos. And first and lastly, we just want a quick discussion of which alliance did you pick and why? Which alliance is your least favourite and why? Let us know in the comments, and we'll catch you next time.